So, when we do the law of cosines, you're going to have, like I said, one of those other situations that we were just looking at. It may be three sides, it may be sides and angles, there's a mixture. But we're going to base which one of these formulas we use off of which angle we have or which side happens to be missing. Because you'll notice there becomes a pattern here. If I'm looking for either angle A or side A, look at the rest of the formula. It's all about
Cosine.
the other sides. It's about B and C. B squared plus C squared minus 2BC. If I'm looking for B in either way, it's A and C that I'm using. So there's a pattern that even develops with these. So you'll kind of see it when we do this first one here.
Then we have to memorize these laws.
We'll need to know them, but as you do a couple of them, it'll get to be second nature.
Yeah.
So you look at the first one, you're like, okay, I've got side A, I got side B, I have angle C.
You are trying to find side C.
It's true, because when I'm looking at these are all sides. So if I'm given two sides and an angle, it's going to be that third side that I'm initially going looking for. So if they give me angle C, I'm going to go looking for C squared. So basically what it means is I'm going to square my two sides, and then it's minus 2 times the product of those two sides times the cosine of my angle. Now here's the part that you'll want to watch now, and if you need to, watch again later in the video, because I know what's going to happen to some of you already when you get to the end of this. You're going to have calculator issues. So what we're going to do is we're going to get this typed in. So we've got 18 squared, so that's 11 squared. And instead of using the parentheses, I'm just going to use times here. We can absolutely put this in one big group like this. Okay, hit enter, and we get this number. Now, don't round yet. Okay. And some of you are going to say, well, but if you have that, it's C squared and that's the answer. Why am I either not rounding, or why didn't I just use a square root to begin with? Because we know that's going to be the last step when I do this. If C squared is about, and the only reason I'm going to write this down right now is so you've got a reference later, why wouldn't I do square root originally? Because again, we're running into a parentheses issue. And I know how some of us are with that, including me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the square root, and like we were doing with the law of sines, I'm going to use second this to get the exact decimal and take the square root. And I can get to my answer, which is about 15.3, because we're going to round to the nearest tenth. Now, that's not the end, because whenever you're doing this, you not only have sides A, B, and C to know, you have angles A, B, and C to know. So what do I know right now? Well, right now, I just finished off my sides. I have all my sides now. And I have angle C, but I don't have A or B at this point. So when it says use the smaller number in proportions, basically that means the smaller side is what you're going to want to do here to work with. So you're like, okay, so I have side C and I have the angle. Okay. At this point, we only use law of cosine for the first step. We use law of sines to finish this off. So I have the sine of 58 degrees. Okay, because again, after the first step, no more cosine. I know what side C is. Okay, so here what I'm doing is I'm using angle C and side C, just in case you're wondering where I'm coming up with all this. And when we talk about using the smaller number, we're looking at our two remaining sides. So we're going to use the smaller one, 11, and we're going to use that to find the sine of angle B. Now it works just like what we've been doing. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to multiply my diagonal that doesn't have B in it together. Divide by the number that's with B, so divide by the 15.3. And again, since I'm looking for an angle, not a side, I'll go back and I'll take the inverse of my sine. So B ends up being 37.6. And the nice thing about that is I don't have to do anything fancy to find A now. Yeah, now because I'm just going to take that 180, oops, not multiply, subtract. Yep, my 58 and my 37.6. So A is going to be 84.4. So if you're asked to find everything, if you're asked to find triangle ABC, that's the kind of the process that we're going to be working ourselves through. So what we'll do here is we'll go ahead, we'll do number 2, because these are the ones where I've got two sides and an angle, but not a side and an angle that are corresponding to each other. So, all right, let's see what we're working with here. Which side are we going to be looking for first on this one? B. Whatever angle they give me, that's the side I'm looking for. So I'll get that down in here at the end. And my order of my A and C don't matter. I just got to remember I'm squaring those. And then I'm subtracting 2 times their product. So once I get that, I'm going to let the calculator do the work. And again, just take your time and keep watching enough to remember, you know, that you don't lose a squared or you multiply instead of adding or something like that. And if you're not using one of the calculators that we've got here, you can absolutely do this on any scientific. You just type the whole line in. And once you get that typed in, now again, remind yourself that's not the answer because I still need to square root what I have. And the more accurate we are by using the decimal they've given us, or at least as many decimals as we can, if we can't figure out on our calculator where the answer button is, so I get my B, and I'm like, okay, so now I got all my sides. I got A, I got B, I got C, I have angle B. So I'm like, okay, I have angle B and I have side B. So when I go to use my law of sines, I've got my first fraction ready to go. So am I going to use side A or side C in the proportion? A, because A is the smaller number. You're like, well, why does it matter? You'll get a slightly different answer doing it one way versus the other, and I don't want to get into one of those where, well, I got, and then it's like, well, but that's because, so if we all are using the same one, that makes this much easier to work with. So to get my angle A, again, multiply using sine your diagonal that doesn't have the A in it. Okay. divide by the number that's in the diagonal with your A. And again, since I'm looking for an angle, it's second sine. And we'll take the answer of that.
38.
38 straight up. And then to get my third angle, C, just take 180 minus the sum of my other two. And C ends up being 42. Any issues so far? Yes, there's a lot of button pressing. Yes, there's lots of little things. But as you start to get, especially the actual law of cosines itself, once you know which side you're looking for, it's just like, oh, I'm basically just squaring the other two sides and then minusing 2 times their product. It starts to go a lot quicker. And then that you get to use law of sines just reinforces that even more. All right, to the back. Because the last two, I think, might be overkill. So as I get over to the back, I notice it's the same type of stuff going on with number 5 and number 6. I still have my two sides and a non-corresponding third angle. So there'd be nothing different going on with these last two. So to get something a little more in depth, we're going to move down to
7.
our favorites,
Word problem? Yes.
the word problems.
Best day of my life.
So, all right, the Perth County Pool has a lifeguard station in both the deep water and shallow water sections of the pool. The distance between each station and the bottom of the slide is known, right there. But the manager would like to calculate more information about the pool setup. When the lifeguards switch positions, the lifeguard at the deep water station swims to the shallow water station. How far does the lifeguard swim? Okay, so let's see. Let's label these so we're all speaking the same way. So I'll call this angle A. Let's stick with A, B, and C here. So I start to look and I say, okay, what do I need? How can I figure this out? Well, let's see. I want side A because I have side C
Yeah.
and I have side B. So if this is the only side I'm missing, that's awesome. So we're going to set up here so we got a little more room to work with. Then again we say, okay, so A squared equals each of my two sides squared, and again the order doesn't matter as long as I get them both, minus 2 times the product of those two sides times the cosine of my angle A. And again, the calculator does all the heavy lifting for us. We just gotta be careful to be sure we get everything typed in correctly.
11.3.
And then take the square root of that answer that we got. So A is going to be 11.3 yards. So I'm like, okay, so we got that part taken care of. Let's see what else, the manager wants to know. If the lifeguard at the deep water station is directly facing the bottom of the slide, what angle does she need to turn in order to face the lifeguard at the shallow water station? In other words, in our case, what's angle B?
Number.
So I sit here and I say, okay, well, what do I know?
Oh, that's sine.
I don't have to use the law of cosine again.
You have to use law of sine.
That's right, because now I have a corresponding angle and side that I can work with. And whenever you have that, we're always going to be using the law of sines. So I've got the sine of 38, my angle A, over my side A, 11.3. And if I'm looking for angle B over here, I know what side B is. I want to know what angle I'd be going to. So, just like we've done before, multiply my diagonal without the B in it, divide by that number we're multiplying sine of B by, and again, since I'm looking for an angle, the inverse of the sine makes this look like we're looking at about a 40.8 degree angle. So there's a lot of application to this. But basically, I just used the two things I was using in all the other questions. And then just on setup, we're just going to set up 8. Because I think that's the biggest thing for some of you is understanding the setup. All right, skating. We have a figure skating routine. Jackie and Peter skate apart with an angle of 15 degrees between them. Now that's pretty skinny, so let's see. Okay, 15 degrees. Jackie skates for 5 meters. Peter skates for 7. How far apart are they? Okay. If you can learn how to draw pictures based on the information you're given, that would make this so much easier. Because what you basically would be looking at here is that in number for part 1, because you're actually going to have to do 2 things here, I believe. Maybe not. Actually, no, we're not. Because we look and we'd say, we're looking for this missing side, x squared, we could call it a. And I'd look at it and I'd say, okay, I have the 2 sides. So we square those and subtract their product times the cosine of the angle I get. And if you fire all of that into the calculator and take the square root, I'll wait a moment. I'll let someone help me on this one.
2.5.
Okay. 2.5 meters. So here's how we're going to do this. And we'll kind of, like I said, we'll get a feel tomorrow for where we're at here. Last book. It's like the first and last book for a while. So 810, we're looking at 15 to 18, 20, 30, 32, and 51. And then when you come in tomorrow, we're basically going to jump straight into apps. And we're going to start blending sine and cosine together to kind of start seeing, okay, what information do I have? How am I going to make this work? And kind of work that. And we're also going to take a look at what happens when you're just given 3 sides. How the heck do you deal with that? So we'll do that tomorrow.